One of my favorite songs by the band Rend Collective is called Joy. The lyrics start like this. We're choosing celebration. We cast aside our shadows, trust you with our sorrows. This is the lyricist talking to God. We cast aside our shadows and trust God with our sorrows. I love this because it feels so much of what Paul says to the Philippians. We cast aside our shadows. We choose to find the light. But we don't do this haphazardly. We don't fake it or pretend that everything is great to get to God. We trust God with our sorrows, which goes exactly with what we've been trying to say this past month. Joy is what proceeds after we encounter God. And you encounter God when you go through both sorrow and love. Sorrow and love both lead to joy. I think you know this is to be true when it comes to love. I mean, God is love, and we love all kinds of things. We love our kids and medium rare cooked steak. We love sunsets and movies and great conversations. We know how to love, and I'm glad we do, because that love, even the little loves and the big loves we have, it all leads us to God. And then what proceeds from that is a form of joy. But what may be harder for us to see is how our sorrow leads to God. Let me tell you a quick story of a painful shock point in my life. I got fired from being a camp pastor. It's true. I was serving in Ecuador with a team, and I was the camp pastor for the hundreds of kids who came for an international mission experience, and I was fired. Now, remember, my livelihood is financially funded by my ability to pastor and preach. Getting fired as a preacher does not look awesome on a resume. But because of a lot of Baptist bureaucracy at the time, as well as a poorly developed theological assertion about Scripture and God, I was put on an airplane and sent home. I was even told on site, in a private chapel sitting alone with a Baptist missionary one-on-one, that I was unfit for Christian ministry and I should go home and rethink my calling. This is one of my shock points that has altered my trajectory and my career forever. At that moment, I was devastated. The camp that I grew up attending was now the camp that shunned me. Now, I didn't realize how dangerous I seemed to them at the time, and I was asking questions from the Bible that I assumed were okay, but to them was not. My faith was moving me in a different direction. I was asking a different set of questions, and I became a threat to the camp that hired me. And they fired me for it. And I can tell you, the weeks and the months to come were haunting. I now look back on these experiences, and there's a lot I'm not telling you, and a lot that I have processed over the years that I no longer feel like I need to share because it doesn't have power over my emotions, nor am I tethered to that institution anymore. I've since forgiven them as well as myself. I've moved on. And I'm definitely not mad. If anything, I'm thankful to that institution for helping me continue to discover deep truths about myself and to allow me to be free to continue growing beyond where they could take me. And that's not meant to be a slight on them. I just now know I belong on a different path. Healing came for me because I didn't repress those feelings of sorrow. I spent a long time processing its pain. I went to counseling, I talked with professors, friends, and family, and thanks to a special mentor of mine who helped me more than he'll ever know. And his name's John Adams, and I hope he's listening. He walked beside me through my sorrow, and he helped me find God. And what has come of that journey through sorrow, I now see as joy. My sorrow led me to God. Now, it was more painful and more humbling than the road of love. but what's proceeded from that sorrow, I now count as joy. The Rend Collective song continues. You're the joy, 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 lighting my soul. The joy, 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 making me whole. Though I'm broken, I'm running into your arms of love. It's like the band is interpreting my experience. Though I'm broken, I am running into your arms of love. Now, I know this is just a simple song lyric, but its truth runs deep for me. I am broken. We are broken. I'm not whole. We are wounded and scared people who suffer. Terrible things happen and we get wrapped up in it. Mistakes get made and we get blamed or perhaps even fired for it. But this pain and brokenness, it doesn't keep us from running towards God. We don't become null and void because of our woundings. It's actually the opposite. Our sorrow leads us to God. And what proceeds from that moment is joy. I cannot say this enough. Our sorrow leads us to God. And what proceeds from that moment, that thing is joy. As the song then says, the pain will not define us. Joy will reignite us. The dark is just a canvas for your grace and brightness. You're the joy, 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 lighting my soul. The joy, 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 making me whole. Though I'm broken, I'm running into your arms of love. In the shadows, in the sorrows, in the desert, when the pain hits, you, God, are constant, ever present. You're the joy, 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 lighting my soul. The joy, 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 making me whole. Though I'm broken, I'm running into your arms. It's really a great song. I mean, at least it is for and to me. I mean, it feels very apropos with this month's conversation from Philippians on how we too ought to be living with joy. This song reminds me that our pain does not have to define us. We can walk the road of sorrow. It is easier if you have a friend or a mentor or a church community who is not dismissing your sorrow or abusing your relationship in some way or belittling your feelings, but rather that community or person walks with you, letting you feel your feels. And this walking and this feeling eventually, just like love, leads you to God. And what proceeds from God, that thing is joy. And joy reignites us.